Hey, welcome back. Thanks for joining for another episode. I am now working on this Halcyon Aliens Power Loader. I've had this literally sitting around for about 32, 33 years. I got it originally when it came out in 92, I think it was. Anyway, so let's take a look at the kit here. We have, of course, the instructions. It has a little message here from Sigourney Weaver, but it's trying to get donations for her ape stuff after she did Congo. That's what all this information is here. Then we have some decals. We have some actuators here. We have some tubing that goes all over the outside of the power loader. Some more actuators, a little bit of piece of photo etch in here. And I had started working on this kit back in the 90s, so some of it is partially assembled. Both of these arms are assembled at this point, which is just a few pieces, not a big deal. I did start assembling this as well. I had planned on even putting lights in it back in the 90s, although it was going to be much different back then, just a solid light. I have new plans now on how I want to do this. But this is the little orange lens, that goes over the top, and this time I'm going to do it with LEDs so I can actually have them rotate. And I ran my wires through here already so that I could do this back in the 90s. And of course we have our legs here. And we got the other leg. A couple more actuators here that go on the back of the arms. Here we have the torch that goes on the side of the cage here. The cage already has some photo etch that I put inside there. And then of course there's this absolutely horrendous Ripley figure that came with it, which I am not going to use. I just do not like this figure at all. So I'm just going to leave it out and do the power loader as just a standalone unit. But this is everything we've got, and looking forward to doing this build. And again, it's going to be a little different now from the 90s. So again, I already had the body assembled here, and I had wires, and the orange lens goes up top here. But I am planning on now using a series of LEDs so that I can actually have it rotating around the inside. So I'm not going to be using these two wires, but I'm leaving them here so I can pull through my LED wires that are going to be rotating around the inside of this lens here. And then that'll just fit right over the LEDs. First thing I'm going to do though is I'm going to start on the arms here. I'm going to get these glued together. They're actually not even glued together. So I'm going to get them glued together, primed, puttied, get rid of these seams down the middle because I do not want these seams here at all. It's got really bad seams down the middle of the arms and legs, just everything, unfortunately. So I'm going to start with this arm here. Again, it's not glued together, as you can see, so I'm going to put some glue in here. Then I'll have to putty up the seam if need be. So I'm going to go ahead and start out by just using some Tamiya extra thin cement and just getting in this in all the cracks and getting it glued nice and solid together. And this will also help. I'm going to sand over it to start with. I have it held together right now with a couple of clamps. The cement fills in quite nicely to help alleviate some of the seams off the bat. I can sand the thin cement. And then where I need to, I can put in some putty and then try to sand it some more. But you can see all these seams all around here. It's just everywhere. This is actually going to be a lot of work. So right now I'm just going to go ahead and start sanding just the thin cement that I've put in there. And I'm going to go ahead and start sanding down all the seams and see how smooth I can get it with just the thin cement. Using some sanding sticks around these little small edges here to get some nice sharp corners. And it looks and feels pretty smooth, but of course until I get some primer on here I can't really tell. But I don't really feel anything. It feels pretty nice. This back looks good. So the thin cement works pretty well. So there's a few spots here where I am going to use some putty, just some Tamiya putty. And I've gone and sanded down the rest of this stuff here with some putty. Even there was some little seams sticking up on the actuators. And this feels a lot better in the back here now. And it's definitely coming along better. You can see some more putty in there that I puttied up and sanded. And I just sprayed some primer on here, some Tamiya fine gray primer, and overall it's looking pretty good. Little bit showing here and there, so I'll have to do a little more work. Probably a little more putty, a little more sanding, but overall it's coming out fairly clean to start with. The arms or the clamps look great at the end of the arms. Those are looking really good. So I've got both arms primed now. Again, after more puttying and more sanding, I've gotten them looking pretty smooth. Don't see seams. It's nice and clean right down the center. You don't see anything. So I'm really happy with how these are turning out so far. It's taken a little bit of seam there I'm still going to have to catch. But it's coming out really nice. This is, again, the hardest part is just all the puttying and sanding, trying to get all these seams. It's going to be the same with the legs. It's the same with the body. It's just unfortunately a lot of work. So I'm going to use some Tamiya TS32 Haze Gray to spray an undercoat on these arms. And I just did the one here. You can see it's a darker gray than the primer gray. And I'm going to use that as a base coat for some chipping and scratching at a later point. But first, I have these actuators. These are the actuators that go on the backs of the arms. I just glued them together. They were just being held together with some clamps. These, again, horrible seams. They're just everywhere. At least it seems that way. Yeah, no bad. Anyway, these are looking good now. Sanded them down. They're starting to be much cleaner. You can see, even without the primer, that the seams are almost gone there. So I've gone and I've shot these with some primer. There's a little bit there still, so I'm going to have to do a little more sanding. Possibly a little bit of putty in there to see if I can get it smoothed out so you don't see any seams on these actuators here. And I think I've gotten it down pretty good there. Not really seeing anything. They're looking really clean, and anything that is there will probably be covered up by paint. And then I have a couple more smaller actuators here. A whole bunch of them. There's these little rods here that go on the front of the arms. Got a couple handles here. And I've primed all these actuators and these two handles. And I'm going to get ready to paint these up. So I've painted everything black. Army Painter black. Everything that's painted black is going to be painted with chrome because it's supposed to be the actuators. And I've also taped up and painted this little spot on the back of the arms black as well because they also need to be chrome. So I've got my chrome liquid marker here, and I'm actually going to paint everything with this liquid marker because it just makes a really nice looking chrome metallic look. And I think it's going to look really nice for these actuators. You know, it'll look like the metal strut or rod coming out of these actuators here. And I've done both of these big guys. You can see done there. Also in this hinged area back here, I did it with my marker, thinner marker. And then same with that one. I also used it on these smaller actuators right here. And then I also did the chrome on the arms, both of the arms here, so those are done now. So now I'm going to move on to chipping. I'm going to try something new here. It's this Worn Effects from AK. So basically what I do is I spray this on first, and then the paint I spray over that, and I should be able to chip away. So I'm going to start out with this one arm here, and I'm just going to start airbrushing a coat of this Worn Effects chipping fluid all over the arm. And I'm going to completely coat the arm with this. And there you can see it's done. And I actually have to do like 2 to 3 coats of this for it to really seal it up really good, and it keeps this base coat protected when chipping. So I've got this done now with 3 coats, and at this point I'm going to go ahead and start painting on my Tamiya flat yellow. And I'm just going to go over the entire arm here with the flat yellow. Try to make it as solid yellow as I possibly can. Get all the little crevices and cracks and everywhere. Get the back of it here, inside the little holes, inside of all the indentations. Alright, and there we go. So now I'm going to get a Q-tip, swab damp here, and I'm going to rub it onto the paint, and it'll let the paint soften a little bit because it is acrylic paint, water-based paint. And then once it's softened, I can just rub over it with a dry Q-tip and start scraping away and chipping the edges, as you can see is going on right here. So here's one arm. You can see all the little chippings around the edges. I put some in the middle of the paint. I'm not doing heavy chipping, but just, wear and tear. There's going to be plenty of other weathering I'm going to be doing as well. But here's how the chipping is going to work so far for this. And you can see here the power loader, the inside of it is like a chrome metal where it grabs. So what I've done is I've taped off the pinchers here, and I'm going to paint the inside of these and make them chrome. So I've sprayed this with some Army Painter matte black. And now that I've got that painted black, I'm going to use some all-clad chrome. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to airbrush this on. And I'm just going to slowly airbrush it on there. And all-clad is just a beautiful chrome paint. It looks very metallic. It just looks great. And I've got that painted on there. Pull all the tape off, and there you go. You can see how nice and metallic the inside of those pinchers look. They're looking really nice. Then I've got this part of the arm. Needs to be painted black, so I taped it off. I'm going to airbrush it. I tried one with a paintbrush and it came out chunky. So here they are, airbrushed, painted with an airbrush. And now we have the decals. These decals go on the pinchers here. We got some that go in the middle of the arm, and a lot of little, markings that go all around the arms and legs. So to start with, I'm going to use some microsol. Just apply a little bit here. I've got a soaked decal, and I'm going to apply the first decal on top of that microsol. And we got that one going there. It's being a little temperamental. Come on. There we go. Got that in place. Then we have this decal that I put on the pincher, but there's paper over the decals, and because of the age, it is sticking to the top, and it just looks horrible. This paper here. I'm going to slowly try to peel it away from as many decals as I can, but that pincher, it just really stuck to it. And I've got a lot of these, fortunately, these difficult ones uncovered, but the pincher ones, it just does not want to peel off, so I'll probably airbrush those. But I'm going to go ahead and continue on and at least get the decals I got applied to the arm here. Just go around the arm and start applying all these decals, and there's a good amount of them. And you can see how those all look there. And I've got them applied on both arms now. And this arm, the decal started falling apart and breaking away, but it doesn't bother me because it just looks like it's been used. So now I have taped off the pinchers because those decals are bad, and I'm just going to airbrush those stripes on the pinchers. So I'm just going to use some Tamiya flat black here. I'm going to airbrush that on, I'm going to go ahead and remove my tape. And there we have the stripes on the pinchers. Now I'm going to go use some dark brown Viejo. This is from the Rust and Chipping Effects collection that they have. I'm going to use this dark brown for weathering though, and I've made a wash out of it, and I'm just going to start going over all the areas on the arm with this wash. I'm not using my normal German gray this time. I just like the way the dark brown looks against the yellow. Looks dirty and grimy, so I like the look of it. And I'm just going to keep going around the whole arm here, just doing washes in all the cracks and crevices. And there you can see how the wash is looking so far around the arm. I'm not doing heavy washing. It will still be weathered more, but you can see how that's looking so far. Like the way it's turning out. Looking good, especially with the chipping. And now I'm going to go ahead and glue this little control into the arm here. Just push this in place. Then I'm going to take some of my Tamiya extra thin cement and just dab it around it a little bit and let it flow in there and glue that into place. And there you have it glued into place. And with that done, now I'm going to go ahead and remove the tape from this actuator here, because I'm going to continue doing my weathering, and I'm going to get a little bit on the actuator itself. You can see the chrome there. And I'm going to use a little bit of German gray for this, however. I'm going to do a wash, and I'm just going to do some German gray around the edges, like it's oily and, you know, grimy and dirty. There we go. And then I have these rods here, which go on either side of this one in the middle. So I'm just going to put this rod into place here. Get it right in there if I can. It's being a little temperamental. There we go. And now with that rod in place, I'm going to give it a little bit of Tamiya extra thin cement to hold it there. And this other side is off. There we go. Now both are on there. And there you can see both rods have been glued into place on either side of the center there. And that's coming along looking really nice. So now I'm going to take some light sand Tamiya pastel, and I'm going to lightly go over these areas that I painted black just to highlight and pick up some of the detail in there. Also going to lightly brush it over this joystick control, just to highlight the stuff and give it some depth so you can see the detail. Now I've got this photo etch piece here, which has the buttons that go on the side of the arm. It's how you activate the loader, and it's what Ripley uses to open up the airlock. And you can see a shot of her here. They're black buttons on yellow. So I've primed the photo etch with Tamiya fine gray primer. I've shot the entire thing with Tamiya flat yellow. Then I've gone and I've taped off, just leaving the button section here. And then I've gone and I've painted that with some black. So I'm just going to peel off my tape. Unfortunately, it pulled off a little bit of the yellow. So I'm going to have to go back and do that with paintbrush and fill that in. And you can see here I touched it up, and there's my buttons on the side panel. And then I'm going to take some light sand Tamiya pastel. And again, I'm going to lightly brush over these buttons and just picks up the detail, the edges of them. Just highlights them a little bit. They're also dirty, as you could see in that previous photo. They're pretty dirty from fingers touching it. Just highlights it and gives us some nice detail and pops. Then I'm going to go ahead and apply some liquid cement here. Some super glue in the area where this goes. Then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drop this control panel into here and press it in place. And there we go. I'm going to move on now and do some more weathering with some pastels. I'm going to use the soot pastel here. And I'm just going to start going all around the edges of it and just making it dirty and look like this is a heavily used power loader. And again, just keep going around all the edges, picking up raised areas. You can see it's not showing up on the camera as well as it does in person. I'm sure you'll see it more once I'm finally finished and I do my photos and final video. But it's definitely getting dirty and grimy looking. You can see it all around the edges here, around the buttons that I just did. You know how it's all caked up on the edges. And it's all around the edges everywhere. There's smudges all around it. Definitely looks like it's been used and it's a little dirty. So with those done, I'm going to move on to the legs here. You got this inside here, which is supposed to be black, and also this back part, which is supposed to be black. I've gone ahead and I've shot both of those with the black paint on the front and on the back there. But I'm only going to continue on with one leg. I've taped up this portion here so that it will stay black when I paint the rest of it, and I've pushed the tape down inside there, and also this back area here. And then the other half will just fit right over like so. And then I can go ahead and I can glue this whole thing together. I can sand down the seams, get rid of the seams, paint it, and then I can just remove this tape afterwards, exposing the black. So I'm going to go ahead and clamp these together and start putting some liquid cement inside there to glue this all together. I have primed it now with some Tamiya fine gray primer, and I have also sanded and puttied. I'm not showing that because you've already seen some of that with the arms, but I'm going through and sanding and puttying. And with that done, I'm going to go ahead and start to do my yellow airbrush. Again, with the same Tamiya flat yellow that I used on the arms. Just go over the entire leg here. I'm only doing one leg at this point. The other leg will be done later because I'm going to have the wires running through it for the LEDs. So I got this leg all painted up yellow now. You can see there it's looking good. Nice solid yellow. And same thing, I'm going to use some water here, just dampen it up to start to get the paint softened. And then I'm going to start going over the whole thing and just start chipping away, making it look like it's been used a lot, been scratched from hitting things, bumping things, picking things up, things dropping. And I'm just going to go around the entire leg here, continue chipping away all over the place, just like I did with the arms. Picking up all the edges. And you can see all the chipping I've got. I'm doing it a little heavier on the legs than I did on the arms. I feel like those would have more scratches and chipping because of bumping into things and scraping things because they're lower to the ground. Have this actuator here, which I had painted earlier. This can go ahead and be glued into place on the leg here. And then I have a decal which goes on the actuator right here. Slide that guy on. Then I'm going to continue going around the rest of the leg and apply the rest of the decals that I have. We have that decal, we have this little symbol here. Then we have another little arrow here. And then it's time to peel off my tape in the middle, exposing the black cushioned leg part. And there's the leg part. And then back black part and the chrome. And you can see how that's looking there. I've also gone over this with a wash. Then I'm going to actually add a little bit of that German gray wash here again around the actuator. Make it look oily and greasy like it's been used. I'm going to add this actuator now on the front end here. Push that on there. And then I have another actuator to go on the other side here. Then I'm going to go ahead and glue both of those into position with some Tamiya extra thin cement. Just let it flow right in there and makes a nice clean glue joint. Then I'm going to go ahead and take some soot pastel, and I'm going to start going over these legs and dirtying up the legs with some soot pastel like I did with the arms. Just go around all the areas where I think it would be dirty and where I think, you know, stuff is going to collect on it, grime and dirt and everything else. Just go around the entire leg, trying to make it look like it's been heavily used. And you can see in this shot here we have the blue straps that Ripley puts her foot in. It straps you down. So that would go right here in this area. So what I have here is some blue ribbon, and I'm going to cut a chunk of blue ribbon, and then I'm just going to loop it and put it inside there to make that strap. And I've got the piece here that I've cut out to length. I'm going to bend that into place right there. Try to position it where I would like it. And then I've gone ahead and I've glued that into position, and there you have her boot strap. So there we have the two arms and the one leg so far, all weathered and painted, decals, extra detail, and it's all looking really good at this point. I'm going to call this episode. Next episode I'll be moving on to finish up the model, so I'll be doing the body and the cage and my rotating lights. So thanks for watching. Hey, if you like watching my videos, please feel free to give them a like. And so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos, click subscribe.